Hi guys, Kelly here, and today I wanted to kind of review a little bit of my April reading and then get into my May TBR. So in April, I had originally said that I was going to have kind of a mellow reading month after a really huge reading month of March, but I ended up reading, at this point, on the last day of the month, I have finished 16 books, but then I have another one that I know I'm going to finish today, so that'll be a total of 17 books, which is actually quite a lot. I mean, I know it's not like the 33 or whatever I read in March, but that's still a lot of books. But the funny thing is, even though with that amount, I only had 2 5-star reads. So a lot of quantity, and there was quality because there was a lot of 4-star, but not that many 5-star new favorites. I will just tell you really quick my 2 5-star, because I think you should check them out. They were both audiobooks, and the audiobooks definitely enhanced the ratings, so I would recommend these as audiobooks. And the first one was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is a new thriller. This is actually his first book as well, and I thought it was great. Even though some of the parts might have been a little predictable and some people might predict, I thought it was really well written how all the reveals played out, because you could still have a reveal that maybe it might not be a complete surprise, but as long as it's well written, I call that a quality thriller, and the narrator is excellent. And then the other 5-star read I just finished yesterday, and that was Matilda by Roald Dahl. That's a children's, I would basically call it a classic now, because everybody, really loves it. It is a great book by him. It's one of his most popular, about a little girl who is a really avid reader and is just really smart little girl, and her adventures at school with a horrible headmistress. And I just thought that the audiobook was excellent. It is narrated by Kate Winslet, and I really think it's worth listening to even as an adult, because she does an amazing job narrating it, and it's just a great, hilarious book. And I also participated in 2 readathons in April, one of which I would say very successful at, and one I was not so much. And the one that I feel like I succeeded at was the OWLS Magical Readathon that's hosted by G at Book Roast. And she had 12 of the owls from Harry Potter, and associated prompts with each of them, and you could pick as many of them as you wanted to do. I had 10 that I had books picked for. I ended up doing 11 of the 12 prompts. The only one I didn't do was astronomy. I'm not going to go through each one. If you want to know that, I'll put it down in the description in case you're really curious what I read for each prompt, in case you were participating too. But I mostly followed my TBR, so if you watch that video, there's only 2 subjects that I didn't do the exact one I put on my TBR. And then the other one I tried to do was Tome Topple, which is a readathon where you're supposed to read books that have at least 500 pages. And I kind of threw that in at the last minute that I was going to do that, because I had fulfilled almost all my owls at that point. But the problem was that I had a lot going on at the week, or it was actually a 10-day readathon, I think maybe, or 2 week. But at that point of the month, I had a lot going on. And so reading huge books when we're traveling for Easter and looking at houses and doing all this stuff really didn't work out. So I ended up finishing 1 tome, and then the other 2, and then I had 2 more that I got halfway through, which I will show you in my May TBR. So I would not call that fully a success. So yes, so those are the things that I have done in April. Now on to my May TBR, and when I'm looking at these books, guys, I am once again shooting the moon. I don't know what is with me. I just cannot. I even kept looking at this TBR over and over again. I'm like, what can I cut out? And I just could not decide what I wanted to cut out, because I really want to read all of these books. So I'm just going to show you. Some of them I for sure want to read, and then towards the end I'll talk about the ones that are maybe. So if you don't want to stick around that long, the beginning ones are the for sure ones. So usually when I do my TBRs, I don't necessarily include the books that I'm halfway through or whatever, but I decided to do that this time because really I'm going to finish them in May for sure, because I'm already partly through them, and these are the ones that are probably going to come up in my recent reads in the next couple weeks, so you might want to know what's coming up. So these are books I made it partway through. And most of these were not on my April TBR, so they would be ones you didn't know necessarily I was reading. And the first one was the one of my failed, I'll do my two failed tome topples first, just so you know the two big books that I made halfway through. And this is The Sweet Far Thing by Libba Bray. This is the third and final book in the Gemma Doyle trilogy, which is a paranormal, YA paranormal historical book, I guess. And I am at about halfway through this. And then the other one is The Prior of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I am also halfway through this book. And this one I've been reading for the entire month of April. It is just a huge book, and sadly the first half of it has not really been drawing me in. I was reading this as a buddy read, and I got way behind the buddy read. And I am going to keep going because I have it for the library for a few more weeks, and I would like to finish it because everybody says the last 300 pages are amazing. It's just hard when the book is 800 pages and people say, well, just wait for the last 300 pages. Well, that's basically me reading 2 books before I even get to the really exciting part. So I don't know how that's going to end up, but it's been annoying me. So those are the 2 that I did not finish for Tome Topple. And then I have 2 others that I had started in the month, and that one of them is Changes in Latitudes by Jen Malone. This is a YA contemporary romance book, and I'm about a third of the way through this. And then I have Grounded, The Adventures of Rapunzel by Megan Morrison. I am also about a third of the way from this. This is I think it's middle grade fantasy kind of retelling about Rapunzel. So those are all the books that I am part of the way through. Now I'll let you know my buddy read books this month. I have 4 books that I am buddy reading. And first of all, I'll talk about my Patreon buddy reads. I do Merphy Napier's Patreon, and so I read with a group of people there every month. And the first book that they picked was Skyward by Brand Sanderson. This is his first foray into YA, I believe, and it's a YA sci-fi book. It is kind of chunky, but I think we're spending the whole month kind of separating this out, so this will be like a slow read through the month. The other one we're reading with Merphy is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I actually never planned on reading this book. It's an adult fantasy, which I think is about an assassin, and I just had no desire to read this even though it's a popular book, but because they choose it for the buddy read, I thought I would at least try it. So I'm just going to get the audiobook from the library and just see. I am allowing myself to DNF this if I don't find it interesting, because I just don't want to invest into a book that I never really wanted to read if it turns out I don't like it. But you never know, I could be surprised, so I'm going to give it a chance with the buddy read. The next one I'm reading with a few of my friends. There's about 4 of us reading this. This is Dark Triumph by Robin Lefevre, and this is the second in the His Fair Assassin trilogy. I read the first one, Grave Mercy, in March, I believe, and I think I gave it 3 stars. I didn't love it, but each one of these books follows a different character in this world, and so I was intrigued by this character in the first book, and I thought that it might be good to continue the series, and this group of ladies wanted to read it, so I'm going to try the second one. If I don't love the second one, I probably won't finish the series, but I'm at least intrigued enough to read the second one. And then the last buddy read I'm doing with my friend Christy, and it is The Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Victoria Schwab and I have a love-hate relationship, or I should say I do. She doesn't know who I am. I sometimes love her books and sometimes really dislike them. And so I never know going into a book what to expect, because I could end up really loving this like I loved Vicious, or I could end up really disliking this like I did City of Ghosts. I just don't know what I expect, but I wanted to give it a try because I own it, and my friend Christy wanted to read it, so I figure this is my chance to give her one more try. And this is I think it's YA fantasy. I can never remember which one of her names goes with adult or YA, but yes. So those are all my buddy reads. All right, and I have only one readathon I am participating in the month of May. I just don't want to give myself the pressure of a readathon, and this is one I'm doing all year long, which is the Booktube Readathon, which is hosted by Alex Black. I'll put her link down below, and it's just each month you reread a book, and it follows a prompt, and her prompt for May is to reread a book that is from a genre you don't read much anymore. And I decided to pick, because I read a really wide variety of genres, so I was trying to think of a genre I don't read much anymore, and the only thing I could think of is that I used to read a lot of plays. So back in college, I did a lot of theater, so I read a lot of plays, and I have read a lot of plays throughout my life, but like the last few years I just really haven't read much of any plays just for enjoyment. So I decided I'm going to read a play, and so I'm going to read one of these books. So both of these are Shakespeare. I'm either going to read Much Ado About Nothing or Romeo and Juliet. I'm just going to decide whether I'm in the mood for comedy or tragedy. I have not read either of these plays since I was Romeo and Juliet. I read it in high school, and Much Ado About Nothing I read in college. So that was a long time ago, so I would like to reread them. So I'm just going to pick whichever one I'm in the mood for. The next are 3 library books that I had gotten out, and I just want to read them before they're due back to the library, and so that'll be sometime in May. And the first one is a light novel. I talked about this in my video, Try a Chapter of Light Novels, and this one is Book Girl and the Suicidal Mime by Mizuki Nomura, and I have read the first chapter of this, and this is actually fairly short, only like 170 pages, so this will probably go by really quickly. And then I have Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett. This is her brand new book that just came out like this month of April, and I am really excited because I loved Alex Approximately and Starry Eyes, and so I put myself on the list to get this from my library as soon as they got it, and just got it from the library this week, and so that'll probably happen very soon. And the last one is a thriller called Free Fall by Jessica Barry. I never heard of this book, but it was sitting in like the new book section of the library, and I love this like color scheme, so I just picked it up to see what it was, and it turns out it's a thriller, and it is about a woman who survives a plane crash, and so it's kind of like a survivalist story and a thriller in one. So like that for me is like the ultimate, because I love thrillers and I really like survival stories, so I'm excited to give that a try. So that was probably the end of the books that I like kind of definitely want to get to. So these next ones are just like my wishes, that if I have extra time. So if you don't want to watch anymore, that is fine, because these are just maybes. And all of these are sequels. So my goal this year is to kind of finish off series that I read. So I have several that are just sequels I really want to get to. And some of them complete the series, and those are going to be my priorities because I kind of just want to get some series done. So the first will be Princess Academy: The Forgotten Sisters by Shannon Hale. This is the 3rd and final in the Princess Academy trilogy. I've been reading them basically once a month, one in March, one in April, so I'll probably finish this out. This is middle grade, so it'll go fast. And then I have Binti, The Night Masquerade by Nnedi Okorafor. This is the 3rd and final in that trilogy. These are like short. I think this is the longest one of the series. Only has 190 or 200 pages. And I've been listening to these on audiobooks, so this will go by pretty quickly. And then the other one that's a final book is I want to try to get to The Great Pursuit by Whitney Higgins. This is the 2nd in a duology that started with The Great Hunt. I want to finish that one off. And then the other one I want to finish is Lioness Rampant by Tamora Pierce. This is the last one in the Alana quartet, and I've been reading these mostly like once a month this year, so I would like to finish that series off. And then I have just a few that are longer series that I have books in the middle of the series to continue. I would like to read the next Sherlock Holmes book, which is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and this was actually in my April TBR, and this was supposed to be for my OWLS, and I ended up filling in something else for that prompt because I just didn't get to it. Because the problem with short story collections, I kept telling myself, oh, I'll just read one story each day. And then I just never picked it up because I was reading other ones. So I think I need to just view it as a book instead of as a collection of short stories, and just pick it up as a book. And then the next one is The Laws of Murder by Charles Finch. This is in a series of like kind of Victorian mystery thriller type books that I have been reading. I've already read like maybe the first 7 or 8 of them, so I would like to continue that series. And the last is City of Wind by Jordan Rivet, which is the 4th book in the Steel and Fire series. And I started this series in January, have been really loving it, so I would like to continue. So those are all of the books that I would like to read in the month of May. I know it's ambitious, but you know I read at least like 10 to 20 books a month, so really it's not like way off the mark, but those are the books I would like to try to get to this month. All right, thanks for watching. If any of these are ones that you really loved, let me know down below. Thanks, bye.